Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're going to hurt some people. Whose car are we going to take?
Thank you for joining us on this day after the 90s kicked the Eagles' ass Monday. Thank you. It was, I know you didn't watch, Kim, but it was quite the game. I'm wearing my Niners gear, as I always do, before and after the win. I feel like I'm becoming one of those people, Kim, that has like a lucky sweater, and I don't want to because I really try not to put so much stock into stuff like that. But my husband was gone this weekend, and we watched the game together, and he wasn't next to me. And so I put on my sweatshirt. I'm like, oh my God. And then the game really didn't start well. It's not that it was bad. It just didn't start. We didn't look strong right at the beginning of the game. And then we just started stomping the Eagles. And I'm sorry, like it was such a nice day. My whole day and my attitude should not be based on whether or not my favorite football team wins, but it truly is, Kim. Like I was gonna have a really bad day yesterday if we lost, but we didn't. We really kicked their ass. It got a bit heated, which I'll get to in just a moment. But thank you everybody for being here. This is the Nikki Medoro Show. Myself, Kim McAllister. Did you have a nice weekend? Is everybody healthy in your household?
Yeah, everything's going okay.
Good. Yeah, my husband was in Florida doing some bicycle club thing. I was like, okay, whatever. But I want to say hello to Maria, a listener that I don't see in the chat. I asked her, I'm like, I don't really see your name in the chat. She's kind of a stalker. She says, she's like, I stalk the chat, but I don't really, participate. But I told her,
hi, Maria. What's
this
up?
Community is so welcoming and so fun and everything like that. I'm like, it's not like, there's nobody scary over here, but I do love our community and I love everybody here. So on that note, you guys, click the thumbs up button to show your support for the show. Every single person that is here, just click it once, and YouTube loves it and we love it. The super chat, of course, is live. That's the way that you can show us a super comment, super thanks, super sticker. And look at Jim, 40 effing Niners, my friend. Yes, indeed. Thank you for the $5 donation. Yeah. It was such a good game. I'll have a little clip of Kyle Shanahan in just a moment. But yeah, the super chat is live. And again, Maria, others, please sign up to be a Medorable by going to our show's website. It's thenikkimedoroshow.com. Our Patreon link is there. You can sign up for any amount. It's a one-time a month thing, like I say all the time. Just one time a month. Think of it as a monthly tip and whatever you can afford. And if you can bump it up, please. We really want to keep this show going into next year and the year after and the year after. We also take PayPal, which actually takes, the least amount of money. So just go to the Nikki Medoro. Just go to paypal.com and then hit send money. And email address is the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com. Thank you to people that have been buying some of the holiday shirts. Someone just bought the Suck It Up Buttercup t-shirt that I have on my shop, the NikkiMedoroShop.com. There's a holiday. I think there's one or two holiday ones as well. There's a drinking one. So go check those out at the Nikki Medoro Shop. And my list of favorite things, all of these links, easy in the show notes. So just go to today's about the show and you'll see all the links right there. And I appreciate each and every one of you being here. All right.
So this whole lucky sweater thing. Is this one of those things where you're not going to wash it type of deal?
Oh, no, I'm not one of those people. I'm not like Mahomes who wears the same red underwear. No. I wear this sweatshirt all the time. I posted it. I posted it on my socials yesterday. You guys have seen it. I've worn it before. It just says 49ers. But it seems lately. So my husband's like, wear your jersey, because I have a bunch of jerseys as well, like Frank Gore and others. And why am I being muted? Stop muting me. Okay. The jersey hasn't always honestly worked for me. Sometimes I wear it and it doesn't work. Sometimes I wear it and we win. Sometimes I wear it and we don't win. But the sweatshirts, the 49ers sweatshirt has been really good luck for me. So I've been wearing it. We've been kicking some ass. So yeah, Blue Sparks like, something's wrong with my Lucky Sharks jersey. Don't get me started on the Sharks. I'm not a hockey fan, but don't get me started on the Sharks. So yeah, I've been wearing this lucky jersey, or pardon me, this lucky sweatshirt, not my jersey. And it's been working for me. But yesterday's game, now I know, Kim, I'll just remind you of this. So last year at the NFC Championship game, the Niners played the Eagles. This was, Brock Purdy's first year, filling in. He was surprising everybody. We were very excited. And early in the first quarter, he got tackled and he injured his elbow. He couldn't throw anymore. Right. And so, we went to our backup, and then the backup it was a complete S show. And so we've been really dying for this rematch. We really have. And the Eagles were like calling us a bunch of whiners, right? Like, oh, whining, da 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 da. You guys are making excuses of why you didn't win, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm sorry. Losing your star quarterback is not an excuse. As they saw yesterday, because Jalen Hurts towards the end of the game was out for a couple plays. But anyways, it was a rematch. We very much wanted to be there and win. And we did. It started slow and then it got heated. So what happened, it was in the third quarter. Dre Greenlaw, now some of these tackles, I'll try to be fair. Greenlaw did tackle the crap out of one of the Eagles players, kind of picked him up and slammed him as he was heading out of bounds. And, he was going to get a flag for that. But then the security for the Eagles coach got into it and was breaking them up. That is not his job. Okay. It is only a referee's job to kind of be doing that. You do not put your hands on any of the players, especially if you're not a referee. And so here is our coach, Kyle Shanahan, kind of talking about that. And, of course he's on the other side, but still, I completely think it was uncalled for this Eagle security guy to get in the middle of it. Here is, of course, our coach, Kyle Shanahan.
Oh, yeah. That's why I tried my hardest not to lose my mind. Hopefully I didn't embarrass myself too bad. But yeah, once I didn't get to see it all from where I'm at, but when I start hearing people explain it to me and stuff, and I just can't believe someone not involved in a football game can taunt our players like that and put their hands in our guys' face. And,
yep.
From what I was told, Dre did it back to him, and I was told that he kind of mashed him in the face a little bit, so he got ejected. But it was a very frustrating play. I got to watch it to have a true opinion on it, but I loved how we rallied after.
Yep. So we won 42-19 or something like that. So it was really great. Yeah, Harry, thank you for the $5 donation. Monday morning drive-by, Niners look Super Bowl bound. I heard a quote this morning, and I've been saying this the whole time, one game at a time. There's a lot of good players, and I'm sorry, the Eagles, they still have the best, record in the league right now. We're second. They're a very good team. I'm not going to act like the Eagles are not a good team. We stomped them, but I'm not going to say that they're crappy. Play the Seahawks again next Sunday. I think it's Sunday, yeah. And yeah, so we'll see. One game at a time, Kim. Would I love to go back to the Super Bowl? Of course. It seems like we keep getting closer and closer, and we've gone a couple times, and we haven't been able to bring home that trophy. I really want to do that. Thank you, John, for the $10 donation to our super chat. Thank you. And yeah, Randy's like, that security guy for Philly is most likely going to be punished more by the NFL. A lot of people are saying the opposite, Randy. They're thinking that Dre's going to get a bigger fine than the security guy. That security guy was ejected. Dre Greenlaw was disqualified, so we lost him. And he was huge for our defense. And but yeah, our defense came back. I was so worried, Kim, that it was going to kind of turn the game a little bit because we lost. Greenlaw is huge to our defense. And we just kicked ass.
So what's the point? Game. I mean, knowing that not a football fan at all, don't care. But why have security on the field? Is that so fans that run out on the field
apparently it's the coach's security guy, I guess. I guess they have their own. I don't know. He's always hanging out with the coach. I knew nothing about the whole setup for the security. I'm just like you, honestly. I didn't know they had their own security.
Yeah, okay.
But apparently this guy is well known in Philly. He goes with the team everywhere.
Oh,
so
okay.
Everyone's like, look who's not going to buy a beer for the rest of his life in Philly, because he did this great thing. he didn't need to get involved. He just didn't. A big dude, but he didn't need to get involved. So, but yeah. It got a little testy, and that wasn't the only scuffle. There were a lot of scuffles yesterday. But anyways, this isn't a sports show, but when my Niners win, especially when
I know you're excited
like that.
So
I am
was this game somehow significant? Is this like a playoff game, or is this
no?
Okay.
And it's not even a division game. They're not in our division, but this was a rematch from the NFC Championship game that we went out basically early on. Everybody since last year's game has said if we would have won, Kim, we would have gone to the Super Bowl type of thing, or what I mean? So a lot of people are saying we didn't really get a fair shot. We didn't get to show the Eagles who we were as a team because Brock got injured. But I always said injuries happen all season. You can say that about every game. Oh, if that person hadn't been hurt or that person hadn't been hurt, we would have won. We can't live in that world, but we really just wanted to have a fair shot at showing what Brock could do against the Eagles. And we got that last night, and it was amazing. And Debo was awesome. I mean, it was an amazing game. I died 1,000 deaths in the first quarter of the Niner game, but there was a lot more game to play. Yeah, it didn't look good. My mom was even texting me, and I was a little behind. And she kills me when she does this. I'm like, stop freaking texting me. She's like, what's going on with the Niners? And I'm like, get off me right now. I'm stressing out. Kim says that game may as well have been the Super Bowl. It was so huge. Yeah, it had a lot of meaning for Niner fans and Philly fans. Randy says it's a game that's relevant to who might get home field advantage in the NFC playoffs. Very good point. Very, very good point. So, yeah, it was really, really a fun game to watch. It really was. So, and we have another game against the Seahawks. We kicked their ass on Thanksgiving. Let's see if we can do it again. But again, one game at a time. We're doing really well. But it's whatever game is next is the most important game that we're playing. So there we go. All right, let's do some headlines. When we come back, we'll do a little bit of Washington politics. George Santos is not going quietly into that good night. He's just not at all. And
this is crazy.
He's crazy. George Santos, did you see the SNL? I can't play it because I'll get dinged. But the SNL skit with him, it was a play on Elton John's Goodbye Norma Jean song, but it was all about George Santos. Oh, Google it. It's really, really funny. But yeah, that dude, I think he is going to take whatever spotlight he can maintain. And I just don't get it, but whatever. We'll also talk about something that happened last week that we didn't, at least on this show, get into, which was Alameda County DA Pamela Price basically blocking a journalist from going to one of their briefings. There's been an about face of that, of course. But I wanted to bring it up because I want to ask this question. In this day and age, which it's with the First Amendment, free to protest, the availability of social media and posting things online. What is your definition of a journalist? There is a one-woman journalist. She runs the Berkeley Scanner. She's the editor. She's the reporter. But she's been around, right? I mean, she has a following. She was barred from going to one of the briefings for Alameda County DA Pamela Price. And so my question to you is, is Pamela Price justified in making sure that everyone that comes into one of her briefings is a quote unquote, credentialed journalist, right? Even though this woman, Emily Ragusa, was, but just making sure that she is, given the fact that so many people have been protesting her lately. Is there something wrong with that or no? Was Pamela Price 100% completely wrong? Also coming up in the second part of the show, I want to talk about bad influences and what should be done when the parents may be the bad influence. And we're going to talk about two specific stories. One is this debate over whether you should let your teenager, who is going to try drinking, drink under your roof. And then this other story about a California man who was arrested because he let his teen make money online. But it's how the teen was making money online that's the problem. All right, click that thumbs up button and let's take a look at some headlines. Much more on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Well, I don't know if you saw the stories about Liz Cheney over the weekend.
Oh, Liz Cheney's been making the rounds and pissing people off.
It's some good stuff. She's got a book and, she's out talking about it a lot. And over the weekend, she decided that she was going to publicly warn against a second Donald Trump presidency.
Yeah.
During an interview on NBC's Today Show, Cheney said there is no question Trump would refuse to leave office after a second presidential term. No question, she said. I mean, does that
he's
scare
gonna be
anybody
really
at all?
old.
Are we
he's gonna be
worried
really
about
old.
that?
I'm worried if he becomes president again. Another 4 years of Donald Trump. I mean, I'm not trying to be ageist here, but he's going to be extremely older, right? So he's going to be much older. I mean, what is he going to fight people? I think we could take him and take him out. So I think it'll be fine.
She said she absolutely believes Trump would try to stay in power as long as possible, citing the former president's push to overturn President Biden's 2020 victory. Liz Cheney said there is a real threat the United States could slip into a dictatorship under Donald Trump.
Well, he already is a dictator. I mean, and the sad thing is he doesn't need to. I mean, he wouldn't be if there was any Republicans with a friggin' backbone. I want to, just because you're bringing this up right now, I want to play you this clip. And this, of course, is spineless. If there's anyone that like joins the spineless club with like Kevin McCarthy and other, it's freaking Lindsey Graham, right? Lindsey Graham is a complete asshat, and he just defends Trump to the bitter end. So here he is with Dana Bash. Oh, here.
I want to ask you about your fellow Republican former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. She has a new book out. She sat down for an interview this weekend, and she said she's worried that the chance of a second Trump presidency means the U.S. is, quote, sleepwalking into a dictatorship. You, of course, have endorsed Donald Trump. What's your reaction?
Yeah.
Oh, look at this guy.
I think a continuation of the Biden presidency would be a disaster for peace and prosperity at home and abroad. Our borders broken. The only person really going to fix a broken border is Donald Trump. When he was president, none of this stuff was going on in Ukraine. You know, Hamas and all these other terrorist groups were afraid of Trump. I think Liz's hatred of Trump is real. I understand why people don't like what he does and says at times, but in terms of actions and results, he was far better president for Biden. And if we have 4 more years of this, Liz Cheney, then we won't recognize America and the world will be truly on fire. I mean,
he just looks like he's just regurgitating BS and he knows it, right? I mean, there's no passion there. It's just like, I feel like he literally looks like there's a gun to his head and he has to say it. Like he has to say it. He has no backbone. And that's why we would have a dictatorship. There's no check on him, on Trump within his own party. There's no one saying, no, that's not allowed. And then standing firm on it. It's ridiculous.
The craziest thing is I believe he knows what Liz Cheney knows.
Yes.
And he doesn't have the character, the backbone, whatever it is, he doesn't have enough of it to stand up and say what's right.
Yeah. I mean, he's spineless.
What a
he's
weaselly
spineless.
Little coward. I mean, honestly.
And they default to Trump. Trump is the only one that can do this. How long have you been in politics, Lindsey Graham? Are you freaking kidding me right now? Like these people have been in politics for decades. And the only person that can get anything done is Donald Trump. He's not going to live forever. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
The House Speaker, Mike Johnson, believes he has enough votes now to launch an impeachment inquiry into President Biden. There's a lot of debate about this, about whether he has the votes or not. But over the weekend, Speaker Johnson said the inquiry had become a necessary step. Republicans have indicated the House could vote to authorize the impeachment inquiry as early as this week. We'll see.
I mean, here's the thing. An impeachment inquiry is just looking into whether or not they could, and if there's anything there to impeach President Biden. I always feel like they're going to get stuck on the actual evidence part, right? I mean, that's the thing. It's like you can yell and scream whatever nonsense you want to. That's your right, right? But to actually have evidence is always this political party's kind of, it's like the thorn in their side. It's like, we want to believe something is true. We want to. I truly believe they want to believe that President Biden has done something wrong, but they have zero evidence to support it. They just don't. And so I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, they're allowed to do it. So it's a waste of time.
See you later, Doug Burgum. The governor of North Dakota is dropping out of the race for the 2024 GOP presidential nomination.
Ooh.
I know. What? You were in it? Yes, he was.
Like
Doug
literally,
Burgum.
if you would have gone to my head, I would have no idea who this guy is. I'd be like, who is this?
Doug Burgum's decision comes after he did not meet the requirements to take part in the third Republican presidential debate. He blasted the party's debate requirements on the way out, saying they are taking the power of democracy away from the engaged, thoughtful citizens of Iowa and New Hampshire. Doug Burgum of North Dakota drops out of the race.
Bye, guy.
Bye, Doug. We hardly knew you.
Exactly. We literally didn't know you. Okay. All right.
A jury will decide how much Rudy Giuliani will have to pay for defaming 2 Georgia election workers in 2020. Giuliani earlier this year was found liable of defaming poll workers by claiming that the 2 women were helping steal the election from former President Trump. They weren't. It wasn't true.
Right.
A federal judge in Washington, D.C. on Sunday denied Giuliani's request to hold a bench trial instead of a jury trial.
You know, he's, I don't know, he's running out of money. I mean, remember he was begging Trump to help pay his legal fees and everything like that. He's on Cameo, Kim. I mean, I think that when you've hit Cameo...
You mean we could have him do it like, this is Rudy Giuliani. Listen to the Nikki Medoro Show. We could have him do that.
I am so tempted, but I just don't want to give him any money. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to help him in any way, but I so want to, I want to get him to say something to my dad because my dad's a total MAGA. And so but then I'm like, oh, hell no. I cannot have any of my hard-earned dollars go to this asshat. So sorry, Dad, my heart was in the right place. Just imagine that I did it. Your daughter loves you.
Oh, did he say that you should do it?
No, I didn't tell my dad that. I was thinking when I heard that Rudy Giuliani was on Cameo, thinking of doing it. And then I thought to myself, I am not going to have one of my hard-earned dollars in Rudy Giuliani's pocket in my lifetime. It's not going to happen.
No, exactly. Not at all.
No.
No, I mean, yeah. I pay all your own legal bills and good luck to you.
Exactly.
Some issues at San Francisco State University going on. The school is canceling most classes tomorrow. That's because more than 500 professors and other faculty members are going on strike. They are fighting for a 12% raise in 1 year, calling the latest offer of 15% over 3 years unacceptable. Hundreds of students set to join the picket lines in support. 3 other CSU campuses will take part in this rolling 4-day strike, which starts today.
You know, what's interesting with all these strikes, I mean, it's been like the last few years of strikes, right? Especially at schools and colleges. The only way I see them being able to get the money for these pay raises is you have to reduce the number of administrative costs, right? You can't keep putting it on the back of students. You just can't.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens on campus. Guess what? Actually, before we get to Taylor Swift, I do have one other story, but we'll look at her while we talk about it. Because it's actually pretty important. There is a beach warning that starts today for parts of the Bay Area. That means people are told to stay out of the water, away from rocks and jetties. There's a high risk of sneaker waves. The National Weather Service says the northwest swell is moving through. It will affect San Francisco, the peninsula, the North Bay, Point Reyes National Seashore, all of that starting this afternoon through tonight. So big day for the beach. Be really, really careful out there.
So you're saying that people might get swifted away?
Swifted away.
That's not even correct, but
the waves will be swift.
The waves will be swift. There you go.
Taylor Swift and Barbie are on the short list for Time Magazine's 2023 Person of the Year.
I mean, I really hope that the real person wins versus the doll, but okay.
The publication unveiled the final list of candidates for the honor today. The others on the list include Hollywood strikers, Chinese President Xi Jinping, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, and prosecutors of former President Trump. Rounding out the list are Russian President Vladimir Putin, King Charles III, and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. The Time Person of the Year will be revealed on Wednesday. Okay, so all those choices, who do you think it'll be?
I think it'll be Taylor Swift. I can't imagine she literally kind of commanded the year, right? So I would say Taylor Swift. What about you?
In entertainment, she commanded the year.
I mean, in economics.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times was she brought up on helping? I mean, literal cities,
Communities.
economies, right? The
It's true.
donations that she made, all of these things.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not discrediting anybody else on the list, of course, including Barbie herself. But I would put my money on that. I would put my money on her. Absolutely.
I mean, prosecutors of former President Trump, they've had a big year.
Yeah, no, I think it's too political. I not knocking them. I'm not knocking them. They're doing, you know, God's work. Believe me. But this is also America. It's going to be Taylor Swift. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
It just is.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
If you
probably
showed a
right.
picture of Taylor Swift versus one of the prosecutors, guess who would be recognized by 100% of people?
I wonder if it has to do as much or not at all with what sexy picture you put on the front and who can sell the most People of the Year magazines, or who legitimately had the most of a contribution to society.
I love you're so sweet. I swear, Kim, like I feel like you have these aspirations that society will lean towards the latter, but it's definitely the former. Okay, like it's really nice to think that we live in a world in which like important issues and work and accomplishments matter. Not knocking Taylor Swift, but come on, she sells hella magazines. If you put Taylor Swift on anything, it's gonna sell. It's especially right now.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so and it's a business. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in a perfect world, it would be both, right?
Well,
It
somebody
would work
has to
both.
win, right? Somebody has to be on the
Yeah,
cover, or
yeah,
somebody has to get
that's
the name, whatever.
Well, lastly,
Mm-hmm.
going to bed at the same time every night could be more beneficial than
Mhm.
how much sleep you actually get.
Well, I mean,
Isn't that interesting?
if I go to bed, let's say at 10 o'clock every night, I probably get the same amount of sleep because I normally wake up at the same time every morning.
What if you go to bed at 3 a.m. every day?
Yeah, and wake up at 7. Ugh.
And then you're only getting a certain number of hours of sleep, but you have a regular schedule, right?
Yeah, that's true.
A study published last month in the Journal of Sleep found that a regular sleep routine reduced the chances of an early death by 20%.
Wow.
Scientists say a consistent time helps the body anticipate what's coming rather than simply reacting to new conditions.
Yeah, I
So
mean, that
your
makes
body
sense.
likes a schedule.
Yeah, my body is definitely in a schedule. I usually go to bed around 10, and then I always get up at like 6:50 to 7 o'clock. Today I was a little later because I'm still battling this stupid freaking cold. So I've been taking like NyQuil, and it's been knocking my ass out. So, and I've been having and I haven't gotten a good night's sleep in like a week because of this stupid cough, but my body still wakes up at the same time. It's not often that I need my alarm. Like I know my alarm's about to go
Yeah.
off. My body is automatically starting to wake up. It's just like that, you know?
See, that's good. You're on a little system.
Yeah, I don't like it. I want to be able to still sleep until
Yeah.
10, 11. Remember those days, Kim, when you were a teenager and you could just sleep till like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning if your parents would let you? Yeah, no, that's never going to happen for me. I'll just
No.
lay there.
This report is crowdfunded, which means we rely on you for the support.
We do.
Please, yes, we're at the NikkiMedoroShow.com. The NikkiMedoroShow.com is where you can find the Patreon and the PayPal links and all that stuff. And of course, the super chats and the super stickers are live and open here on YouTube. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, well, let's do a little bit more on, well, I guess it is politics, okay? We talked about Lindsey Graham. We talked about Liz Cheney and her book, and she's doing the rounds and calling out Trump. But what do you think about this news? They're making a movie of Donald Trump, okay? So I'm trying to find the name really quickly. So former President Donald Trump will be portrayed, and I have a picture of the guy, of a Marvel character. Here he is. Sebastian Stan. That's who's going to play Donald Trump. Are you really kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? Like, I don't think they look anything alike, but
No.
Sebastian Stan is an Emmy and Golden Globe nominee for his work on Marvel. Also, he was Tommy in the Pam and Tommy miniseries, remember, on Hulu? So he's going to play the role of a young Donald Trump in The Apprentice, which is a film from Cannes Prize-winning Iranian filmmaker Ali Abbasi. Okay? It's billed as an exploration of power and ambition, set in a world of corruption and deceit The Apprentice will examine Trump's efforts to build his real estate business in New York in the 70s and 80s, and also digging into his relationship with infamous attorney Roy Cohn. Yeah. I don't like the fact that we're making movies out of this idiot.
No, it glorifies.
I could see. I mean, okay, look at the picture though. I mean, I guess I could kind of see it. I mean,
I think
I feel like Sebastian's too attractive though, you know?
It's true. They're going to have to put a lot of prosthetics on his face. I feel like it's what we were just talking about with Taylor Swift, right?
All right. It sells.
Because it sells. Donald Trump sells. You know, when people see a picture, they click on it. When people, you know, we talk about it because it's newsworthy. It's interesting. It's what's happening right now. We're under, you know, as Liz Cheney says, we're under threat from another Trump presidency again. So there's a legitimate reason to talk about it, but also people are somehow, even if they hate him or they love him, they're interested in seeing what is that about.
Yeah.
And so I feel like the reason a movie will be made to glorify his life, even if it's a negative movie, it'll add glory, is because it sells.
You know, and that's the thing. And I love that you brought it up. Like, it seems that with Trump is the epitome of there is no bad publicity. Mm-hmm. It doesn't seem like anything that, even if people are like, yep, that's true, that his cult cares, right? Like they're like, nope, love him. They will love him even if he's like burning him in a boiling pot of water, right? It's just, it's absolutely ridiculous, but people make money off of it. People, you know, admire him. People want to act like him. It's insane. So I don't know when that movie is coming out, but apparently Sebastian Stan is playing him.
Yeah,
so.
He looks nothing like him.
No, Sebastian is way too attractive.
I was reading an op-ed piece in the Washington Post saying a Trump presidency is imminent for that reason, because the media is making too much money off of him, because everyone's making too much money off of him, and so because he sells, he likely will be elected.
I mean, what does that say about us as people? Right. You know, I mean, I wanted him to go away. I really thought we had turned the page. Yeah. But the problem is, and you know, and it really does piss me off. There was Joe Matthews? I think he wrote an op-ed for SF Gate. And it was basically urging Kamala Harris to step out of being vice president, saying that she won't run as the vice president because she was going to run for governor of California. He's like, basically was like, come home. You're going to step back. And then that Biden is just, Biden is ineffectual, blah, blah. And I'm like, how this narrative about Biden is such a BS. Yeah. And to act like he's done nothing over the last 4 years, you know, and and we talk about inflation all the time on the show, and I understand, believe me, I feel it too. But to blame Biden for the fact that companies and manufacturers are choosing to keep prices high because they're thinking that you've gotten used to it is, again, totally unfair. It is an unfair narrative. And, you know, it doesn't seem like people are really comparing people honestly. You're telling me that President Biden is worse than Mr. January 6th himself. Like, you got Trump supporters, I just don't think get it. Like, you have someone that does not follow the Constitution, that wants to throw it out. When it doesn't suit him, he wants to throw it out. With no evidence, he makes all these accusations, and it drives me crazy. It really does. It makes me feel like there's so many American voters that just choose to be lied to and absorb it and not actually look at the facts. They don't care about the facts. Any facts put before them, like, yeah, nope, don't care about that. I'm just going to buy all this BS, hook, line, and sinker. And it's upsetting. It really is upsetting. And I just don't know what we're going to do, Kim, because another 4 years of Trump is going to destroy this country. This country. I
mean, until it happens, I have to believe.
Right.
And have more faith in Americans than that. Right. In 2020.
Right. We thought that it was a done deal. We did. Right. I thought it was going to be Trump.
You thought he was going to win?
Oh, I was surprised that Biden won. I was praying that Biden would win, but I was hoping he would win. But the narrative, just like we're talking about now, the narrative constantly was Trump has it in the bag. Trump has it in the bag.
Yeah.
And then voters came out.
That's
Voters
right.
came out.
And so if they came out then, and that was before January 6th,
right?
And that
Of
was
course.
before all the
Yes.
crimes that he's been charged with. And that was before we saw all the evidence against him in all of these different cases. If we came out, we collectively as voters.
Yes, exactly. That's what's needed.
Then I believe in my heart of hearts that America saw what was happening back then. We'll do it again now. Now, I don't think we can be complacent about it. You know, I think people that are extremely concerned need to do that once again, write the postcards.
Right.
Once again,
Yes,
call,
exactly.
doing
We
the
need to
phone
be
banks.
organized, yeah.
We need to have passion behind this and not just lay back and blandly accept what happens to us and think, oh, well, if he wins, he wins. No, we need to fight against it. We need to show that we care. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, but if we did it before, I think we can do it again.
I do too. And again, and I was mentioning this, I think last week, the number of young voters that have turned 18 and watched what's happened since the last election is going to be huge. Okay. So you can't underestimate that. And I'm sorry, the polling that is done, I truly do not believe is capturing their preferences and their beliefs. Because I'm sorry, if you're calling people, I will never answer the phone. And I'm older, right? You think you're getting 18, 19, 20-year-olds to answer a phone to take a poll? That ain't happening. So I don't trust the polls. I will never trust polls again. But it's the narrative that scares the crap out of me, Kim. And Vilma, you know, you're correct. If Trump is elected, it will be in the Electoral College, not by the popular vote, which always seems to happen with Republicans that win, right?
Yep.
And that is true. And that's why they're trying to get into all of these states, trying to undermine those systems. But we have to come out and vote. It is vital that we do this.
I'm reading this analysis on CNN.
Okay.
And the headline is Trump is showing how a second term would rewrite the rules of presidential power. And the author discusses this claim that Trump made over the weekend that Joe Biden is the one destroying democracy, right? And he's arguing in court. A lot of his defenses in all these cases are, well, I was immune because I was president. I'm immune from prosecution. Can't do that to me because I was president. It doesn't apply. And how that concept of being immune because he was president sheds light on how he'd behave in a second term. What he's saying is that his belief that anything that a president does, any action a president might take, is legal. Because simply by them being the president shows
that's how he believes it. Yeah,
that's what he believes, and that he would gut the Constitution because he's the president and it's legal.
And there's no check on him within the Republican Party. That has been proven. I mean, if you can have January 6th happen, literally happen to some of these Republicans, they're there. Their lives are being threatened. They're scared, and they still fall in line. I mean, and I understand that I might be sounding dramatic. Doug's like, come on, Nikki, destroy the country. The USA won't be destroyed. I will say that similarly, Doug, as if, you know, destroying the planet. No, the planet will be fine. We just won't be able to survive. I am talking about the fact of an erosion of our rights in this country, depending on who you are, what gender you are, what sexual orientation, what state you live in, might dictate the rights you have under a second Trump presidency. That's what I'm talking about. There are consequences. There are long-standing consequences of a first Trump presidency, as we are seeing with such things as Roe v. Wade, right? Now you want to do it again? I don't think I'm being dramatic. I really don't. And
no,
now
you're not.
I do think that the people will rise up. I do, but you know, I just wish we didn't have to fight old fights anymore. I really do. I wish that we can move forward and progress, but apparently we cannot. Brian's like, Santos will be the perfect running mate for Trump. He'll have plenty of time on his hands since he was booted out, and he's Jewish, right? Yeah, he's Jewish. Let me just because you brought up George Santos, he's vowing to go after some of his former Republican colleagues. Sounds very Trumpy, okay? Sounds very, very Trumpy. Now that he was expelled last week, here's a little bit of a news report on what George Santos wants to do.
So it started Around midnight, Santos going after first Nicole Malliotakis, questioning her stock trading, implying that she's using inside information. He then took aim at fellow Long Island freshman Congressman Nick Laloda, accusing him of going to law school during the hours he should have been working at the Board of Elections. And he accused Mike Lawler of Rockland County, a fellow freshman congressman, of laundering money by allegedly funneling funds from a consulting firm he's connected to pay for campaign expenses. All this taking place just hours after that bipartisan vote to oust Santos, who left the Capitol yesterday. The question now becomes who will replace him in New York's 3rd congressional district. There will be that special election that experts say will have some serious national implications.
My thing is, who's going to believe this guy? Like, you can say whatever you want to, dude. You are a documented liar. So I don't think that much is going to come from this.
So's Trump, though.
Yeah, but Santos is no Trump. Like,
he's trying to be. He's taking a page from everything that Trump is doing, except he doesn't have the power or the political capital that
he's not
Trump
a celebrity.
Has.
He's like a politician, but Trump was a celebrity. That's what
he wants it to work for him, and it's just not.
No, I don't think so. But go ahead. I mean, you can do whatever you want. And you know what? If his Republican colleagues are dirty, fine, boot them out. I don't care. We have to be fair with our criticisms here. Like, if they did something wrong, and you can prove it, which seems to always be the problem, and you can prove it, then yeah, there you go. All right. I was thinking you were doing news, and you're not doing news. I'm doing news. Okay. Well, okay. This actually goes along. I will say this. This kind of goes along with a consequence of the Trump presidency, which is the attack on the free press. Okay. Now, former President Trump despises the media, like despises them.
Feelings mutual, pal.
Exactly. I mean, he likes like Hannity. He likes all those types of people that like just suck up to him, give him good headlines, make excuses for him, those sorts of things. But the general media, any sort of critic, fake news, it's a witch hunt, blah, 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 right? Mm-hmm. Well, we were kind of seeing, and I'm not going to compare Alameda County DA to former President Trump. I'm not doing that. But there does seem to be this erosion of what is a journalist, what is media, who is allowed to kind of be in the room, as they say. So last week, there was this reporter. She's also the editor of Berkeley Scanner. Okay, the Berkeley Scanner, daily public safety news, those sorts of things. So when we're talking about Alameda County DA Pamela Price, obviously these are stories that the Berkeley Scanner would be covering. Well, apparently there was a briefing by Alameda County DA Pamela Price. Now, Kim and I both know, so you go to these press conferences, you have your press credentials, but most of the time you either know all the people that they recognize you because you're at these press conferences all the time, or you just kind of walk in. It doesn't seem like there's this.
No one ever checks.
No one ever checks. And I'm not saying that like to give people ideas,
right?
But you just know, the media. Yeah. You work with these people every single day. Well, here is a report from KTVU's Henry Lee on what he was there and he saw what happened.
Signed in, wasn't required to show my credentials, but for reporter Emily Raguso, she got the exact opposite treatment and was stuck in the hallway outside.
For them to turn me away from doing that, I think is really short-sighted and disturbing.
Emily Raguso is the founder and lone journalist with online news site The Berkeley Scanner. On Wednesday, Raguso showed up at a news conference at Alameda County DA Pamela Price's office and was denied access.
They said I wouldn't be allowed to attend because I was still under review.
Under review, even though she's a legitimate reporter with valid media credentials.
To have my status as a journalist questioned was not something I would expect at this point in my career.
So while KTVU and other media were invited inside for a news conference about victim advocacy, this was Raguso's vantage point, stuck in a hallway behind a closed door. Raguso says the real reason for her banishment is that Price, a progressive DA who's the target of a recall effort, doesn't like her reporting and is unfairly singling her out.
I'm not pro-recall. I have not taken a stand on DA Price. I have really taken pains to include her position.
Media is media is media, and the government does not get to decide who is legitimate and who is not.
David Loy is legal director of the First Amendment Coalition. He wrote a letter to Price saying she violated the First Amendment.
If government officials got to decide who gets to come to a press conference based on whose reporting they like, that is not a democracy. That's a police state.
The DA's office described Raguso as, quote, an uninvited person who didn't have credentials from a news agency with a management structure and editorial oversight. In a statement, Price's communications team, made up of former reporters, said in part, the Alameda County District Attorney's Office requires all media members to have an official press credential issued by a bona fide national news network, local news affiliate, or a long-standing independent news journal.
That I've never had to show my credential to attend a news conference with DA Price or her predecessors. Now, one last note. The ACLU has come out against the effort to recall Price, and the ACLU has also long championed a free press. Now, today, I reached out to the organization for their thoughts on this reporter being barred, but they were not available.
So, I mean, it is disturbing. She does have press credentials. So
she had a press credential. Yeah.
So you have to fill out a thing. They do kind of a background check on you. You go through either the CHP if you want to do, you know, like when I worked in Sacramento, I had to go through the CHP and get all of my background check done that way. You go through police and stuff like that. There is a process when you get hired to get your press credentials. How concerned are you about Pamela Price doing this? Because on one hand, I can kind of see the criticism, like you don't want just anybody coming into this press conference because so many people are protesting you right now.
It's rather dictatorial, though, isn't it?
Right.
Especially since she doesn't like the reporting of the person that she's excluding from the press conference. And I think if the woman's got a press credential, then you have to let her in. I always thought it was interesting, and it actually came to a head during you remember the 1%er protests?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So usually as a reporter in the Bay Area, you are given a press, you apply for a press pass and you're given press credentials from the city of San Francisco.
Right.
And it means that you don't need to get them from Oakland, because once you have your San Francisco press pass,
that's it.
It'll apply everywhere. And I was somewhere in the East Bay, and someone asked to see, the authorities asked to see my press pass to get in somewhere. And they said, oh, I'm sorry, you have a San Francisco press pass. You don't have an Oakland press pass.
Like you're supposed to carry a press pass from every city you may be covering?
Exactly. That's was
ridiculous.
Their point. You don't have a press pass for here, so how do we know you're not legitimate? Which is ridiculous, because in the past, all I needed was the San Francisco one.
Right.
So they do sometimes catch people up, but this one seems... like it was she was targeted and pinpointed because they didn't like what she had to say.
Well, exactly. And again, I would argue that the Berkeley scanner isn't the only legitimate news organization that has shown Price in a bad light, right? Or shown the criticisms or what have you. Yeah. I think that when you look at a press pass and it doesn't say KTVU, ABC7, KCBS, whatever on it, right? And it says the Berkeley scanner, it's like one less person you have to deal with their reporting. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, we could just kick the Berkeley scanner out.
Right.
I mean, how many, and I'm not knocking the Berkeley scanner here, but it's not the same, right? I mean, I would not say it's the same as a television news program.
Well,
and
even
so it
online,
seems very personal to me.
It's not the Chronicle. Right?
It's not the Chronicle. Exactly.
Yeah. It's not the East Bay Times, but that doesn't make it any less important to the community it's trying to serve.
Yeah. So it's been reversed. I do want to update this, though. It has been reversed. So Pamela Price's office did put out a statement, of course, after the reporting. Right. It's not as if they were forthcoming with it, and basically said an uninvited person not on the media list was turned away for lacking the required credentials. Apparently, the list of media people hadn't been updated. But they say they require all media members to have an official press credential issued, like Henry Lee was saying, by a bona fide news network. But apparently the list, it was a mistake that she was left off. Now, Emily Raguso said, I quote, "I'm glad this issue was corrected because the DA's prior position was clearly indefensible. Berkeley Scanner will continue reporting on this issue and pushing to ensure that other members of the media have fair and equal access to our elected district attorney. This is not helping Pamela Price. I'm sorry. Like, you're a progressive and you're keeping the media out. And it sounds very, I'll say it again, Trumpy, right? Like, you don't want any bad press. So you're leaving the critical people, the possible critical people out of it. But yeah, it's just not looking good. Whether or not she's recalled or not, we'll have to see. I don't think they've turned in all of their signatures yet. So I think they have it until early next year. They have to get all of their signatures in. But we can't keep. Now, we could say whatever we want about Pamela Price, but I feel like the recall started right after her election, right? I mean, so very quickly. Is that what we want to do? Now, you're allowed to collect signatures and recall people. I'm not saying that you can't, but just because your person doesn't win, do we automatically start recalls? Do we automatically start impeachments? Like, is this the type of politics that we really want to live in? Or do we just allow people that were duly elected to do what they said that they ran on doing? I mean, it's hard, especially when you compare someone to like Trump or someone you sincerely disagree with. Yeah. It's tough. So I don't know what's going to happen here.
One thing I do like is that journalists are standing up for this woman at the Berkeley scanner.
Oh, it happens to one, it happens to all, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the truth.
Because today it's the Berkeley scanner. Tomorrow they don't like you at KTVU and they're doing the same thing.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. You don't exclude someone who's, and by the way, we all know each other, right? So you go to a press conference, they all know who she is.
And can you imagine how awful? I would, honestly, because you sit in the same room, just like Kim said. You sit in the same room, you chit chat beforehand, you share notes. There's so many times I've come in, like, I'm like late or a few minutes. I'm like, hey, what happened? Someone gives you the notes. I mean, it's not like we're competitors, but we're not. Like, here's
we're
the
also
information.
all working. We're working together.
Yeah. And so I can't imagine what it must have felt like to see one of your colleagues on the other side of the friggin' door and standing there and being like, I am a journalist. The First Amendment protects me and protects her. Mm-hmm. I need to do something about that. And I applaud Henry Lee from KTVU for really going after this story.
Absolutely.
You know, because it's important. Mm-hmm. It is very important that, because if it's just the Berkeley scanner, if you think of it that way, then it'll be just KTVU. It'll just be local news. It'll just be regional news. It'll just be state news. And then all of a sudden we're watching frickin' Newsmax and OWN. And that's the only thing that's on television because
that's who's acceptable to those who in charge. Yes.
Exactly.
That's not going to work that shouldn't be working for anybody.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
If the minute they start doing that, we all need to stand up and put a stop to it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's very, very important. Okay. So there's a warning coming out, switching gears now. Now you have an iPhone, Kim. Did you update your phone over the weekend?
No,
you are needing to update your phone, my friend.
To what? What am I updating?
Okay. So iOS 17.1 was released. 17.1.1. Okay. 17.1.2 is now out. You need to update. Apparently it has some important security fixes recommended for all users.
How do I know what I am on?
I love Kim McAllister. Okay.
How do you tell what you need?
Open your phone. Go to general. Go to settings. Go to general.
Yeah.
And then you'll see software update. Second one down. Hit it. Well, you don't have to do it right now because then your phone's going to be out for a couple minutes.
Go to general.
Yeah,
software
and then
update.
Does it say that you need the what do you have?
iOS 17.1.2. iOS is up to date.
Oh, good. So you've done it. Maybe you have your automatic up. So
It did it on purpose. It did it without me asking it, and I kept trying to say no, I don't want to update, and it kept saying.
Why would you not want to update?
I was busy doing stuff. I didn't have the time for my phone to shut down. Like, it wasn't an opportune moment, and my phone decided, nope, we're doing it, and we're doing it now.
Yeah, so apparently there's a much needed security update. You have to do all of that kind of stuff. There is this other, you have to be careful with the technology that's available. So remember we were talking last week about the name drop, where if you're standing within like 2 centimeters or somebody, you need the contacts, but you shouldn't worry so much about it because you have to approve it and those sorts of things. But there are some scary ass things out there right now. Have you heard of Flipper Zero?
No.
Okay. So apparently Amazon, and this has been going on all year, but this is the first time I've heard of it. Okay.
Flipper Zero?
It is a tool that you can buy off Amazon, and Amazon is banning the sale of it now. Apparently, it is this gadget. It's a handheld device that can hack into digital frequencies such as radio waves and TV signals. It can clone credit card information. Okay, so that's why Amazon's blocked it, because it has a ban on that. It can easily intercept public digital waves. And apparently pranksters on social media have been unlocking cars, again, scanning people's credit cards. It sells for $169. If you go on Amazon, I went on Amazon to do some, like, can I really not buy it? All they have are these protective cases for it. So it does exist, but they're not selling it anymore.
Why? Yeah, because what is this? They say it's a multi-tool.
Yeah.
For geeks in a toy-like body.
Right. And you can interrupt games. Like if somebody's playing a video game, you could turn it off. A user was able to hack into the digital wallpaper in a restaurant that had the menu up on the screen.
Is the only reason for this product to exist to cause chaos and havoc?
Pretty much.
Then why? I don't understand why that would be legal to sell this thing.
Well, there's a lot of things out there that why is it legal to own? So the tool's been similarly contemptible option for, this is the quote, for financial frauds, as it's able to scan and remember credit card information, including through your smartphone. To be able to hack into a credit card, the device must be held over the card directly. So think about all the people you hand your credit card to. Yep. And it does not appear to be able to gain access through a wallet, though. So that's good. So, those RFID wallets that kind of protect. It does not, the Flipper Zero can't go through that. It's able to steal credit card information over smartphone features such as Apple Pay, but your phone needs to be unlocked for it to do so. So I'm just saying, you got to be careful with your stuff out there. And you have the number one tip that I was reading from law enforcement. You guys need to keep track of your bank accounts. All of your bank accounts. Like the moment you see something weird, you got to report it. You got to look into it. How often do you check your bank account or your credit card statement?
I don't, because I know that it's funny. I should too, but every time something is charged, an alert goes to my husband.
Oh, interesting.
And so he knows, so he'll say, hey, did you just charge X? And I'll say either yes or no, I did or I didn't.
Is that credit card or debit card too?
It's both.
Oh, wow.
So an alert goes to him. So I know that he is monitoring it, which is why I don't go in and look at it.
Oh, that's really, now what bank is that offered to everybody that you could do that?
I think so. I think you can set it up anywhere that every time a charge comes through, it sends you an email.
Ooh, I think I want that. I'm always checking my bank account. I'm like on my bank account almost every day. So I always see things, but
it has helped us out before when there was a charge made to some Amazon, for a gift card that we didn't approve. Then we knew that somebody got a hold of our account information and what have you. So it helps you alert. It alerts you in a faster way.
Well, so my debit and my credit card, I think it's really my debit because I really don't use my credit card. But so if I make a big purchase, let's say I buy a TV for $400,
right?
They'll deny it oftentimes, and they'll be like, and then I'll get a text, and they're like, "Do you want this to go through?"
Right.
And then I have to say yes, and then I have to redo it. Like so, if
that's smart,
right, and declined, then I'll check my phone and be like, "Okay, hold on, wait."
Yeah.
They do that, but I don't get I would love to get an alert every single time. That would be amazing. Yeah. And I don't think it'd be annoying either. It's like, let me just make sure. Yeah, Mod. Yes. The alerts. You have to know
the alerts, what's
going on, because things like this exist. And so the security update if you have an iPhone is important because hackers are out there, especially this time of year where people are charging things left and right.
Yeah.
Or your husband might be getting you a gift, and so you see a charge, you're like, oh, maybe that's for me, so you don't say anything. Hackers know that, but just be mindful of it, and as much as possible. It makes me want to use cash again, but so many places are not even using, cash. Like there's so many places I go to now. And a lot of it has to do with foods and restaurants and places like that. But it's like cash only or no cash, card only.
Yeah.
Apple Pay or something like that.
It's to the point.
The more you can be hacked.
It's to the point now where I make a mental note of how much I spent, because if he asks me about it, sometimes a lot of places have weird, names where like the name of the business is not the name that the charge goes
Yes.
through on.
Right. Yeah.
So like you charge, just to be general about it, you charge something at Nikki's restaurant, and the charge comes through as Surprise Incorporated, and you don't know, but if it's $54 and some odd cents, that's the right thing.
Yeah. Exactly. And then sometimes I'm like, what is that? And it's all those sneaky like monthly things that always get me, but yeah, you just pardon me, you have to be careful. And you have to, keep checking. Okay, let's do some headlines. And then when we come back, I want to talk about two stories. One is a story out of California where this dad was arrested because he allowed his teenage daughter to make money online. But it's how she was making that money online that's concerning. And then also this question of, should parents let teens drink under their roofs? Now, we've talked about this before, but there are some experts weighing in. And what was interesting in one of these articles is comparing, the United States to how other countries do it. And if you take away the novelty of something like drinking before they're out on their own, going to college or moving out of the house for the first time, does that help or does it hurt? And I'm going to throw this third question in. Even if you don't let your kids drink in the house, but you drink in front of your child, just like peer pressure, is that also something that is bad for kids? You guys let me know in the comments, how good of an influence were you, in your behavior and what you did in front of your kids or your parents were to you? And would you allow your kid to make money online, even if it included possibly sexy photos? At what age and how much money would change your mind about that? All right, click the thumbs up button. Show your support for the show. We will talk about all of that after Kim's news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Well, let's go to the Middle East, why don't we? Because the fighting has resumed, and it's getting more and more intense. What we know this morning is that the Israeli military is expanding its ground assault to all of the Gaza Strip now. Some residents in the region say there's nowhere safe to go as the fighting starts to spread to the southern part of the region. This comes as rockets continue to be fired from Gaza into Israel as well. So fighting from both sides we have.
Yeah, and when you hear that, like, where are we supposed to go? And all the routes are closed. It just seems like they're just, they're sitting ducks, and it's so frightening. And you also heard that protesters were outside Nancy Pelosi's house over the weekend, calling on her to do something about this. So it's just awful.
It is awful. And I mean, it's so depressing because you sit here and watch it and there's just nothing you can do.
Oh my God. I was reading, and again, it's awful. And every story that comes out of it, it just seems to get more horrific. But I was just reading an article over the weekend about doctors that were working in intensive care units with preemie babies, and they couldn't take the babies with them because they couldn't be removed from the oxygen. And it's just, it's awful. It's just absolutely awful.
Well, let's move to the Red Sea. This is awful as well.
Oh, yeah.
This is a satellite picture of the Red Sea from space. But the Iranian-backed Houthis are claiming responsibility for attacks on 3 commercial ships in the Red Sea. That happened yesterday. The USS Carney shot down several drones that officials say were launched from the Houthi-controlled parts of Yemen just a month after it shot down rockets and drones fired by Houthi militants. U.S. Central Command says the attacks represent a direct threat to international commerce and maritime security. So it's a different way of piracy, I guess, using drones to attack these commercial ships.
Yeah, and people are afraid that this is just going to be an acceleration and a spreading of the war in the Middle East, and it's just, it's scary.
Well, Texas Governor Greg Abbott says he will appeal a ruling against using buoys, not just buoys, razor wire buoys, as a barrier in the Rio Grande. Speaking on Fox News Sunday Morning Futures, Abbott said an appeals court used an outdated law which only applies to navigable waters. The governor said the state will file another appeal, and if they lose that, they'll bring the case before the U.S. Supreme Court. How much do you have to hate people in order to want to cause them harm and hurt them.
Well, I know I can already hear his argument. Well, they would never be caught in the buoys if they didn't try to cross, right? That's how he justifies it. That's how he justifies it. And a body was trapped in it and drowned. Like it is. And if you've seen the images, it's terrific. Like in between these orange buoys is like this. It kind of looks like a wheel, like a thin wheel, or and it's just all spikes and then the barbed wire. And I know him and everybody else that thinks like it. Don't worry. People will not die or get hurt. They just don't cross and then they won't be hurt. That's what he's thinking.
That's it, huh?
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I mean, I hope he's known for this.
Yeah.
I hope he,
I don't think he has any shame
in the
for
history
Kim,
of Texas.
Honestly. Yeah, I
he's
think he's
known
proud.
as the guy who, wanted to hurt people.
Exactly.
And how do you then, and I would imagine, like California, Texas likely has a large immigrant population or a large population of Latinos that vote. How did they vote for this person?
Because they're already here. I think that there may be, and I don't know how true it is, but there may be a growing number of immigrants who either, got their green card or whatever process, and they're here now and they don't want other people to come. I mean, that is totally possible and a way for people to think, right? And so I don't know how you get through to them. I just really don't. I can't imagine anybody from Venezuela or Guatemala or whatever who has family desperate to leave, violence and are fearing for their lives, thinking that the GOP is going to really protect them. But,
I mean, if you're a person that came here fleeing whatever it was, violence or gangs or wanted a better way of life, then how could you withhold that from someone else?
They don't care.
I don't know.
They don't care. They justify it. They have a way of justifying it. Just like I said with the buoys. They're justifying it just by saying, well, if they don't come, they won't get hurt. And that's it. And that's what they tell themselves.
The White House is warning Congress funding for Ukraine is running out. In a letter to congressional leaders, the administration said it will run out of funds to provide weapons to Ukraine in its fight against Russia without congressional action by the end of the year. The White House calling on Congress now to act on a supplemental funding request that includes aid for both Ukraine and Israel. Remember, Johnson was trying to split those up? California Democrat Eric Swalwell, this is a picture of Kevin McCarthy. Swalwell is predicting that former Speaker Kevin McCarthy will be the next Republican to leave Congress.
Oh, good. Bye.
Maybe it's Swalwell's wishful thinking. I don't know. In a post on X, Swalwell said he expects McCarthy to be gone by the end of the year, following last week's expulsion of New York Republican George Santos. The former House Speaker will soon have to decide whether he'll run for re-election.
Oh, God. I would love it if he would just leave. Just leave, ineffectual a-hole.
Wow.
I know.
Yeah.
I have strong feelings about Kevin McCarthy.
Let's talk about this volcano. There's this Indonesian volcano that erupted, and it killed 11 climbers and resulted in another climber being missing. The country has 127 active volcanoes, more than anywhere else in the world. Mount Merapi erupted Sunday. The head of the search and rescue teams in the area said evacuations are underway. A team of 40 were on the mountain while eruptions were still happening there. It was scary.
That's scary. Yes, exactly.
Right? Like rumbling under your feet, and all of a sudden you look up and you see the plume.
No, thank you.
It reminds me of that movie. I forget what was it called, Volcano or Eruption or something.
Or something like that. Yeah. I think it was called Volcano.
And it's like this nightmare scenario where you see the lava coming toward you.
Remember what happened in Hawaii not too long ago, like a few years ago, remember? And it was just this slow moving destruction by all of this. Oh God, it was awful.
What's interesting is that in Hawaii, where I've been standing on a volcano and watching the magma come down the mountain, it moves really slow.
Yeah. But it's so devastating when it touches anything.
In the movie,
Oh,
you
it moves
know,
so quickly,
it's
right?
it's coming at you fast. So yeah,
Well, the explosion and everything, I'm sure it's
the
but
power of the
yeah,
explosion. Yeah,
exactly.
interesting. SpaceX is gearing up for an experimental spacecraft in Florida later this week. The company says, and this is not a picture of the Falcon Heavy X rocket, but its Falcon Heavy rocket will send a national security payload for the United States Space Force into orbit. Mixing of, the government with private business again. We're relying on Elon Musk and crowd. The mission is part of the agency's National Security Space Launch Program. The goal, try out technology for an unmanned space platform. The liftoff scheduled for this Sunday at NASA's Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral. An exact time set to come out closer to launch day. So.
Yeah, and I really do. And I know I'm a big critic of Elon Musk but there's more people at SpaceX than just Elon Musk. And I do think, so many strides have been able to be made in space exploration because of the advances here. So, I don't wish any harm to it. Just Elon Musk is out of his gourd. Sorry.
Yes, he is out of his gourd. Let's talk about Meta. They're not doing so well over in Spain. Meta is facing a $600 million privacy lawsuit in Spain. The legal challenge accuses the social media giant of having no legal basis for processing user data for ad targeting. The suit comes from an 80-member association of newspapers.
Interesting.
Uber is doing pretty well
because
the shares are rising after the inclusion of Uber into the S&P 500 index. The announcement came on Friday, and so the stock prices jumped $3 into the $57 range. This morning, Uber shares have been trading in the low 60s. All because of the inclusion into the S&P 500.
Interesting. I want Uber is obviously going to expand more outside of ride sharing, right? I mean, that's kind of the goal. I think, with self-driving cars and those sorts of things, if they can no longer use humans to do all of their things like deliver food and they'd still obviously need some people involved in it, but I don't ride Uber. I'm a Lyft person. I'm loyal to Lyft. I don't Uber, but that's interesting. I wonder what's next for that company because they have to keep growing. They can't just rely on ride sharing as their moneymaker.
No. By the way, another tech company, 23andMe. I don't know if you've done your whole DNA testing.
I did.
With your 23andMe.
A long time ago. Yeah.
23andMe says hackers breached the accounts of 14,000 users. Congratulations. The genetic testing company filed papers with the SEC to disclose that the number amounts to about 0.1% of its total user base. More than 14 million people use 23andMe. What did your results show?
I think I have it on my phone still. I mean, nothing surprising. There was nothing surprising that came out of it. I did it. I had done an endorsement for a medical company. And so they offered it to me. And even though I had said always, I was like, I'm not going to do it. I did. It won't open for me right now. European, Caribbean descent, which is normal because my mom's Puerto Rican and my dad's Italian. Okay. There was nothing really. No, I had no surprises. No surprises whatsoever. But it is always interesting to kind of see the percentages.
Not like your dad's not your dad.
Exactly. Like nothing like that. I have family members. My dad was married before. So my sister from my dad's first marriage showed up on my 23andMe, cousins. I don't have any celebrities that I've found so far. Nobody, famous or anything. But am I worried about 23andMe getting hacked? They don't have anything like credit card or anything. I guess my DNA or whatever, but I don't know. Am I supposed to?
Does that worry that your DNA is sitting there and possibly they've kept it at some company somewhere?
I'm sure my DNA is on all sorts of things, Kim McAllister. So no. There's only so many things I can be worried about in this life, Kim. And that it's not towards the top. It's not. Maybe it should be, but it's just for me personally, honestly, it's just not. So no, I'm not that worried.
Well, lastly, Oxford University Press is picking their word of the year.
Okay.
It is Riz.
Ah, the good old Riz.
Riz
I have a lot of
given
Riz. You have a lot of Riz.
Given the honor for 2023, with the Oxford University Press saying in a release, it was chosen as an interesting example of how language can be formed, shaped, and shared within communities.
Yeah.
Riz is defined as style, charm, or attractiveness. It came from charisma.
Yeah, charisma.
Charisma.
Yeah.
Riz. And it's become popular online among younger generations. You have some serious Riz, my friend.
I used to know a guy. I used to work with a guy. And he was actually a friend of like our crew, whose last name was Charisma.
Oh,
is that an interesting last name? Like I was like, I don't know, and I apologize. I don't know if it was spelled the same way because I never saw it, but I just knew that was his last name. Yeah, and his last name was Charisma, and I'm like, that's
John Charisma.
Yeah, like that has to be a big weight to carry, though, right? It's like if your middle name really was Danger, you kind of have to live on the edge, right? If your last
you have to
name
live
is
up
Charisma,
to your name, yeah.
I wouldn't want to have the pressure of something like that. But yeah, his last name was Charisma, and it was interesting.
That's really funny. So Riz is our word of the year. I'm Kim McAllister. This is the Nikki Medoro Show, and if you can, check our website out. Please. TheNikkiMedoroShow.com. It's where the PayPal and the Patreon links are located, and that really is the bread and butter of this show. Thank you for all the ways you support us. If you can check that out and consider a contribution, we appreciate you. I'm Kim McAllister again, and this is the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, so let's get in. Let me just ask this basic question. How good of an influence do you think your parents were on you, or do you think you are on your kids? Like, I think I'm a good... I have flaws. Obviously, I have huge flaws as a parent. I think any parent that's a parent is like, I'm messing my kids up. Right. I did this wrong or that wrong or whatever. But as far as like parental influence, like peer pressure, but parental pressure, what's kind of allowed inside the household. It's interesting because oftentimes it has to do with alcohol. It's a long debate. People have had it for years, right? Yep. Should you allow your child that it's a common thing parents say, oh, my kid's going to experiment, right? You're a teenager. You're going to push the envelope. You're going to experiment with certain things. Just be safe, blah, blah, blah. But does that extend to drinking alcohol? Kim shared this to me, and I read it too over the weekend, that experts were weighing in on whether or not parents, before they send their kid off to college or to live on their own or do whatever, if they should introduce drinking to their kids. Right. Because in some cultures, like in Europe and whatever, having a glass of wine, or whatever, underage, and I'm putting that in quotes because, some people just don't see it that way, is okay. And then other people are like, nope, zero alcohol. The law is the law. Your brain is still developing. It's not good for you.
Right.
Where do you stand on this, Kim?
This is a big debate in our house.
Okay.
This is something that I really battle with, because my husband thinks that if you let a kid have a little bit of wine, let a kid have a sip of whiskey, that it demystifies it. And that because they do that in Europe, in other countries, that is why their alcoholism rates are less than ours. Right. However, I have a huge problem condoning and saying that it's okay.
Right.
So I don't want my 9-year-old to be given a sip of whiskey, even if his face twists up and he realizes he never wants to drink that again because it's so awful. I like the demystifying part of it, but you can't bank on that. And so what is it that
what
you're
if they like
your
it?
Kids?
What if they like it? Well, they're like, ooh, that's yummy.
They both do like the taste of wine. Sadly. They ask for it. Can I have a sip of your wine? No, you cannot have a sip of my wine. No. But that's because we make wine, right? And so they've grown up with that. They're used to that, the testing it along the way, that as it's fermenting. So they're used to like barrel tasting in the garage.
That's interesting because it's kind of like when you bake or cook in your house and you introduce foods to your children that way, because you are making wine. It's this whole process that the kids are interested in seeing. And so then, of course, when it gets to the point of tasting it, I could see the desire to be like, well, let me see what it tastes like, right? Yeah. But you don't want your kid to get hammered. And again, they are young, so to be drinking isn't good. But you brought up, like in Europe, the level of alcohol or drug and alcohol use is lower than in the United States, and abuse, I should say.
Right.
And a lot of people are saying, oh, it could be because of this. Now, it could also not be. It could be a bunch of other things that are part of society and growing up as an American in this country. A survey of alcohol use in the United States found in 2018 that by the end of 12th grade, 59% of students had consumed more than a few sips of alcohol. About 43% of 12th graders reported being drunk, having ever been drunk. Again, alcohol use by teens is higher in the U.S. than most other countries. But how do you teach moderation? That's the question. Like, how do you teach your child, don't overindulge, because this can happen? And it's not just, the awful, terrible, you can be raped, you could be assaulted, you could, be murdered, whatever. It's the fact that you're going to be hanging over a toilet and hating life for hours on end. Yeah. How do you teach that? Or is that a lesson that just needs to be taught in real time? Like, you're just going to learn that one on your own.
Mean, the argument could be made that, well, if you allow them a sip here and there and you take away the big, stigma of it, that will then show them that it's a sip is okay, but
right.
5 glasses is not okay. But RN Sue disagrees, seemingly saying, why is it so hard for some people to tell their children that certain things are for adults and not for children?
I say that to my kids. I'm like, you can't because you're not at that age. And I was like, and there'll be plenty of time for that in the future. Heather makes an excellent point. You teach moderation by modeling moderation. Yeah. And that's interesting. So that brings me to the other thing of this conversation, which is, do you just have booze in your house? I mean, we do. Like, we have our wine rack and, our liquor cabinet and things like that. It's out there. I mean, it's not hidden, it's in our dining room area. Is that wrong? Is it peer pressure for parents? Not peer pressure, because it's not like you're urging them to do it, but it is at a bad influence to just even drink in front of your children because you're modeling a certain behavior that you don't want them to do. It's all fine and dandy to be like, I'm an adult, you're a child, you shouldn't do this.
Right.
But does it kind of influence them in a negative way if you continue to do it in front of them? Brian says, you guys, you missed the problem. Just let them try Manischewitz wine and you'll solve that problem. I've never tried it. Is it gross or something?
Little Manischewitz. So it's not the good stuff. Let's just put it that way. Like if you give them the gross stuff, they're never going to want it again. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, you're not much of a drinker, Kim. I know that much.
Yeah, but I like a glass of wine.
Right. Was the first time you tasted wine, though? Did you like it?
I don't remember. I remember the first time I tasted hard alcohol, I couldn't understand why anyone would want to drink something that tasted like jet fuel.
Right.
That burns on the way down. I didn't understand the way that bitter taste to me. That wasn't good.
Yeah.
I remember that, but I don't remember not liking wine.
Yeah. I remember the first alcohol that I really had was like a beer, probably like a Budweiser or something, and I did not like it. I remember either the first or second time somebody handed it to me, like I held the same beer all night long because I didn't like it, but I just wanted to kind of like
I never liked
fit
beer
in,
either.
It was just, but eventually I ended up liking beer, although I don't really drink beer anymore. So it's different.
You never know what is said as a freshman will be what they're feeling as a senior.
Of course.
But Julia says to me that she wants to be the person that's the designated driver.
Oh, I love that.
She says, I want to be there to make sure everyone else is safe, and I want to be included in the group, but I don't necessarily want to do what the group is doing.
Right. And that's a great way of being included, being like, hey, let's go out and, we're going to party and, Julia's got us, so let's go. And then you're still having fun. Everyone loves you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And
I try to explain to her that sometimes it's not as easy as that being in the group, you feel like you want to be part of everything, or, people start making fun of you for being the prude or whatever it is. And so sometimes you get pressured to do the things that you said you didn't want to do. One of the things that worked for me, interestingly, is my stepmom said something to me, and I must have been 16 or 17. And we were talking about drug use and alcohol use. And she said, and I think we're like looking ahead at the worst case scenario, right? About, well, what happens if you do drugs and you become addicted type of thing. And she said, you know that you get to choose the kind of person you want to be, right?
Right. That's a great
You get
statement.
you get to pick that. Like, that's a choice that you right now at this moment, you get to choose what you want to be in life. Like, do you want to be that guy over there that's addicted that can't shake it?
Right. Because you can.
Because
you can do
I
that.
think a lot of people, their life kind of snowballed to that point, and they never stood back and went, oh, wait, before I even get involved in this,
Right.
you mean I get to pick that I don't want to be living in a tent on the side of the road? Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe that's simplifying it a bunch. But
no,
for
but
me,
I think it gives them
worked for
something to
me.
think about. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I
Mhm.
mean, I've said similar things to my children. It's like, who you are is who you are when nobody else is looking. Like, without me being like, hey, say thank you or do this or don't do
Right.
that. Like, it's you dictating. Am I the type of person that's going to do X, Y, and Z or not do X, Y, and Z? Now, I hope that Julia maintains the fact of wanting
Yeah.
to be that type of person. I could see that the pressure could still be there, right? I think it was Heather also saying, like, modeling the moderation,
Mhm.
taking Ubers when you're going out. And that could be as simple with the kids. Like, hey, we're going out. My kids have done that. James and I are going out for the night, but an Uber is picking us up. And they're like, why is an Uber picking you up? I'm like, because we're going to be out drinking. And I
Right.
don't want to drive home. Like,
Right.
and making a big deal kind of making that decision. I
Mhm.
mean, like, this is what you do if you're going to be going out.
Yeah.
Heather says, I think the biggest danger isn't the parents, it's the friends who kids hang out with. That's where the crazy parties and stupid decisions and pressure come from. But also knowing, I mean, I'm sorry, like, especially because we have teenagers, Kim, it's just like, do you not know where your kid is going? So my daughter wanted to go and hang out with her friends. And I think I might have told the story about, she's like, oh yeah, and then we're going to go to one of her friend's brother's gigs. Okay. And I was like, what do you mean a gig? Right? Where's this gig? And she's like, oh, at this place that plays music. I'm like,
No.
And so, even though like my daughter goes over to this parent's house and I've met the parent before, I walked right back up and I was like, you're going to be there, right? Like, and she's like, yes, it's my son. I was like,
Yeah.
you can't have a teenager looking at you being like, I'm going to a gig and just take their word for it. And I even felt kind of stupid.
No.
Not that I wasn't, but it was just like
Uh-uh.
going up to this parent and just eyeball to eyeball. This is the story. I'm hearing this story. This is the story, right? Because kids, they'll make up all kinds of nonsense to make it sound good. And yeah, it was fine, and they did, and she came home, and it wasn't anything bad. But
I don't think that's a problem asking questions like that.
Yeah.
I still ask. You're probably going to think this is crazy. I have asked before or offered information like, on a play date, is there a weapon in the house?
Oh, that's good. That's very, very good.
I have done too many stories where kids get a hold
Yeah.
of some weapon and some kid dies. I can't
Yeah.
drive away from a house where I've dropped my kid off at a play date and wonder, God, I wonder if they have a gun in a nightstand drawer. Like,
You never know, right?
because you don't know. So I know I'm that mom who's like, so is this happening? Is that happening? But conversely, I'll tell people as well, like, here's the situation at my house.
Yeah.
I do have a swimming pool. We do have it gated. I do I want people to know, here's my dangers and here's what I'm doing to prevent anything bad from happening to your kid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, especially in households like you brought up
Mhm.
weapons. I mean, if your friend is, or if your kid's friends with somebody that's a police officer, their parent's a police
Right.
officer, there's a weapon in the house, and you probably know that weapon
It's secure.
it's
Yeah.
secure, but also that they might be coming home and it might be unsecure for a moment.
That's
And,
right.
like, how many stories have we done about that? Cop comes
Exactly.
home, goes to the bathroom,
Yeah.
belts off for 1 second, and something tragic happens.
It's like we're the worst case scenario moms because we've seen
we've
every
seen it
news
all.
story there is.
Exact. And it happens
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
And nobody wants it to happen. And it's awful mistake, but it happens. It happens.
And I
it
blame
happens.
myself. I say, I am, coming from a news background. I'm so
Yes.
sorry. But
Yeah.
Grady writes, me being a drunk driver victim, I've
Oh.
always been the safe ride guy, and it's a privilege to do that.
Talk to text.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Instead of like texting while driving, talk to text.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just saw that movie with Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman called A Good Person. And it's about something like that. Like, she was looking at
Oh.
her phone, got in a tragic accident, 2 people died.
Oh, no.
And it's actually a pretty good movie. A
I
Good
just
Person.
flipped through that. I almost clicked on it and I didn't.
Yeah, it's
so I had to go back and
really
watch
good.
it.
It's a good, and
Yeah.
it's Morgan Freeman and Florence Pugh. I
Yeah.
mean, they're amazing actors and actresses. So yeah.
Mary says to us, here's a news flash. Teens and college students aren't drinking wine.
Probably not. But you never know.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks for the update.
Yeah.
No, it's true. You're right.
That's an interesting point, though. It's like, how do you teach moderation for what they're actually being offered?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, what if they're being offered things that you would never in a million years touch? Like, how do you teach good behavior without, introducing an idea to a teenager?
And how do you make sure that, whatever you're being handed is exactly what you think is in the cup?
Right. Yeah. Very, very true. Natalie says, my first try was a Miller. I was 7. My dad was barbecuing. He only drank while barbecuing. He gave me a sip because he thought I would hate it, but I loved it.
Oh,
and kept
no.
sneaking a sip. My mom was furious. Yeah, I'd be pissed too. I know some people and again, it's often people that come from different cultures, right? European or whatever. And their teenagers are totally allowed to have, if they're having a glass of wine at dinner, sure, you can have a glass of wine at dinner as well. And then all of a sudden in front of their friends, they may act like that. And they're like, wait, that's only allowed inside our house. It's not allowed in mixed company. That's a mixed message that you're giving your kid, though. They're kids and they probably want to show off to their friends or whatever. And it's not okay.
So when you make wine, when you're pressing it, it's grape juice first.
Okay.
And I mean, sometimes it's grape juice as it's turning. So it's a little bit fermented.
Okay.
Right. And you can put a cup under the press and drink.
Okay.
And so because it was, coming out of the press or whatever, Julia would stick a cup under there and drink. And you turn around and you're like, hey, I don't know how fermented that is or like how much
alcohol is in there.
So they have these things in, kindergarten, first grade, where they start, the teacher will say, what's your favorite food? Write a paragraph about your favorite food. Or what do you like to do with your family? I think one of Julia's was on her list of favorite things, Pinot Noir.
Ooh, look at
She's
her fancy schmancy.
5 or 6 years old. And it's like, I'm humiliated. I'm thinking, God, now I have to go to the school and explain why my kid has written down that one of her favorite things is Pinot Noir. I mean, come on.
I would say, an explanation to the teacher. Did you ever give an explanation?
Oh, yeah. I'm like, listen, it's not. It's just it's the grape juice she's liking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like, again, maybe it's just because we know Julia, right?
Yeah.
And we're not worried about her. But I understand your concern. Lori says it is your responsibility to ask those questions. Why are you questioning yourself about this? I mean, I'm not. But, it's one of those things when you're driving and you're walking up and you've talked to this parent before, your kid's been inside somebody's house numerous times.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, am I crazy here to double check that this is happening? And of course not. They still did it. You know what I mean? It's just one of those kind of mental gymnastics you make with yourself. Andrea says, my Chico State daughter takes care of her friends at parties since alcohol isn't such a novelty to her.
And see, that goes along with it's not such a novelty, that when it's a novelty, that you overdo it, or you think, ooh, this is the time where I get to drink. But if you've had those little sips all along, it's no big deal to you.
Yeah.
But it's very uncomfortable to me to watch a kid take a sip of booze. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't feel like that there's any judgment if a parent wants to make a decision of like, okay, I'm going to let my kid have a sip of wine. It's when it becomes a problem and or if my child at your house and now that child is offering my child. Like that's the problem, right? It's when does it stop and when does the influence stop? So it's hard. Natalie says, I know a San Francisco cop with children keeps an unsecured long gun on the top of the highest piece of furniture in every room of his house.
Wow.
Not all cops are the same.
Yeah, that's true. That's why you ask, right?
Wow.
That's why I ask.
Exactly. That's why I would ask as well. Heather says, my mom used to put a little bit of her cherry brandy in the bottle cap and let me sip on it. Kind of a cute memory for me now. I mean, what is that? Like the tiniest of sips, a teaspoon of brandy? All right. Well, maybe. I mean, how old were you? Those sorts of things, I guess. Also, do you have alcoholism in your family? I think is also an important thing to keep in mind.
Rod says she's like, I'm not drinking any Merlot, Mom. That is exactly right, Rod. That's exactly
Does
right.
not like the Merlot grape juice. Okay. Well, let's move from drinking and drugs and whatever influence you have in the house to making money. Okay. So earlier this year, The El Dorado County Sheriff's Office sex crimes detectives investigated a 16-year-old girl who was allegedly selling nude photographs online.
She's
kind of like
16.
16-year-old girl, okay? She also had a very well-known online presence on a variety of social media platforms. So I'm thinking OnlyFans, right? Something like this, okay? Detectives discovered that the female in question was selling illegal content online and grossed about $40,000.
College fund.
Detectives also discovered that the female's father, Scott Davis, was aware of the online activity and complicit in the profit. Detectives executed a search warrant on the residence, taken into custody for a variety of charges. Davis was, including sex trafficking, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do if you found out that your kid was selling naked photos online?
I would be very upset, would be the understatement of the century.
Yes.
I mean, the eruption of anger would be my first problem. How do I contain that level of
anger,
like,
and embarrassment and devastation for my child? Like,
well, it's like, how did I
fail?
This is how I would feel. Like, how did I fail here?
Yes.
How did I not teach them this is not the way to go? What happened that I didn't give them that lesson, that they thought that was an acceptable way to make money?
But how do you fight? And again, influence.
Yeah.
How do you fight the influence of $40,000? Like, and I don't know the pictures. I don't know what they showed. I don't know if there was any acts going on. Okay, I'm not saying that, but okay, let's take it.
Those
let's take it
pictures
away.
are out there forever.
Well, let's take it out of the
Forever.
sex part, though. Okay, what if Julia was selling pictures of her feet?
Oh,
And
back
got
to the feet again.
$40,000.
Here we go back to
We're
the
going
feet.
back to the feet because it's not.
No. Mm-mm. No. No. She's a
So
14-year-old
she's like,
girl.
I need to make money. I want to go to X, Y, and Z college. It's only my feet, Mom. I'm not doing anything. My face isn't in it.
Well,
There's
first
no
it
sexual
starts
parts.
with the feet, and then it moves up gradually, right?
No, maybe not. Maybe it's
And
all
no.
feet. 100% feet.
It's all no. They're children, and it's oogie, and we don't
Yeah, it is
profit
oogie. I don't like
off
it.
of
I don't like it
selling
either.
pictures that are allowing people to pleasure themselves at your expense. It's just not the type of kid that I want to raise. Now, if you grow up as you're an adult and you whatever, then you make your own choices and do what you got to do. But when you're a teenager,
Yeah.
I have a responsibility to make sure that that's not happening here.
And you know what the problem? And I agree with you 100%. I'm just I'm laughing about the whole feet thing. But the problem is it's so, and I'm not going to say easy as in anybody can do it, but there's a lot of money to be made online in these ways, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not justifying, especially underage people, but when you see this, when you're on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and you're scrolling, okay, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, you could do what for how much money? And all I need to do is continue to post. And I'm going to use feet because anything other than that is just disgusting to me. But like, all I have to do is this, and it's not hurting anybody. And how do you convince your child not to do something like that? Besides the fact of, your morality and the gateway and the sickos and everything like that, $40,000. I don't know how long the 16-year-old was doing it. And of course that was sex, but it seems there's this easy money idea out there that's influencing these kids.
I hear you say, all I have to do is this.
Yes.
So what you're doing there is justifying it.
Right. Yeah.
If it's something that you have to justify to yourself,
Good
back
point.
away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
If you have to somehow talk yourself into, well, it's not so bad because no, there should be no question.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those with the proliferation of online jobs. And I mean, you don't have to go to the office. You're kind of your own entrepreneur, right? I mean, and there's people that do all sorts of things. It doesn't have to necessarily be in a sexual area. You can give advice. You can do a show on YouTube. You can do all sorts of things, right, to make money online. That is influencing the next generation, right? The next generation is looking to the internet and they're like, how can I make money through my social media platform? And a lot of them are learning that, well, one, sex sells, which has always been true, right? And now you could do it in a way in which Maybe your face isn't involved in it, and that's dangerous. And you got to like steer your kid away from that kind of stuff.
Calvin says she's 18, but 21. Now it's okay. So here's the thing. And I go along with what Jess Martinez has to say, right?
Can't be erased.
Can't be erased online. And Jess also says future jobs, opportunities, future partners, right?
Yeah.
So it's my job, I feel, as a parent, to get my child to the point where they're an adult that can make their own choices and choose their own future, right? But if I allow them, her in this case, to post things, to sell her body in certain ways, to do whatever to make money, then I've taken away what Jess says is the potential for future jobs, the potential for future opportunities. And so if she wants to make those choices in the future after I've done my part, well, I can't help that. But I can get her hopefully to the point where she makes good choices moving forward and that she's not limited. Right. That she hasn't been limited
decisions.
by.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
John asked, though, what if it's a shoe company or shoe commercial and they want your kid's feet to be wearing some shoes for a company?
Well, that's not a sex ad or being or a fetish thing. And so if I mean,
it could be used that way by people that buy the look at the
be.
ad, right?
Yeah, but I don't think I would have as much of an issue with it.
And then Jim says, a father takes a kid to a modeling agency. They get $40,000 for a commercial for Crocs, or they deny her and the girl decides to model herself. Same intent.
I disagree. The intent is completely different. However, I would not promote modeling for kids either.
And I wouldn't either. No.
Reason, because we had a friend that we worked with that was a child star. She was in a sitcom as a child star.
Okay.
And her parents, she said, took all the money from that. She never saw a cent.
That sucks.
And it messed with her head. And she told me when I had Julia, we were working at KGO, she said, I was a child and I had a job. She said, kids shouldn't work. She said, I wasn't allowed to do kid stuff. I was always at the studio. And while she has some good memories of making a very popular show, she said, I felt like part of my childhood was missing.
Yeah.
And I think it mentally messed with her a lot. I think she would agree with that. And she said, whatever you do, because she knew Julia that back then loved to perform and sing and everything else. She said, whatever you do, don't let her do that and don't capitalize on that. It'll mess her up. And she's a kid. She shouldn't have to work.
Yeah. So. And also, and I think the other difference is the parent, right? You'll see this with some kid celebrities that hit it big, but then they're totally normal and they live kind of a normal life. And a lot of the thread that's similar in all of it is their parents didn't want to be part of the business. When the parent wants to be part of the business, that can be detrimental to the child because one, they'll take the money because they want to use it. And then their kid just becomes an employee. But if the parent's like, look, you can enjoy doing this movie or this commercial or this TV show, but you still have to go to school. And when it's over, you're still doing your chores and try to make childhood as normal as possible. I could see it being okay. But no, I would never want my child to be a child movie star, actor, model. It doesn't seem to work out well, right? Who was it? Was it Natalie Portman? One of them gave an interview saying that it's just by luck that they made it out because they were a child actor and that they made it out and didn't get, unscathed, as they say.
You're right, Murphy. It is illegal. But back then, this show was Mary Hartman.
Oh.
So I think it was either the 60s or 70s. And back then it wasn't. So, but there are new laws now that prevent that. Yes.
Yeah. There's supposed to be laws, Calvin says, to protect child actors to hold their money so parents don't steal it.
That's
right. But then parents like hire themselves as their child's manager and it just becomes dirty and gross. And, that's interesting. Jim writes, I agree about using children for something that can be sexual is dangerous, but until we make gymnastics illegal in the Olympics, who has the power to stop beauty pageants?
Wait,
really
why? I don't understand that. Why would we make gymnastics illegal in the Olympics?
Well, maybe because the sexual assault,
Well, that's
like
illegal.
Larry Nassar and things like that.
But that wasn't supposed to happen. That's illegal. The man's going to jail.
Yeah, but I mean, how long did it go on? I guess is kind of the question.
Are you saying that because the girls are underage and they're parading around in gymnastics suits or leotards somehow that that it should be illegal because we're allowing them to be on camera doing these moves in skimpy outfits.
I don't know.
I
I
don't
was
know if
actually
that's-
thinking it, the similar to allowing your child to be an actor or a model.
Mhm.
Is it doing just as much harm making them be kind of an athlete at the top of their field so young?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a job. It's all encompassing. We know that things with gymnastics, dance, ballerinas, body
What
image
about-
issues.
What about dance? Because I've seen pictures posted
Yeah.
of a lot of they put makeup on the young
Oh,
girls.
God, yeah.
The red lipstick and the
Mhm.
skimpy outfits. I mean, are we okay with that?
Yeah, I mean it is a valid question. It's just because we don't see it that way, are we
Mhm.
just justifying it in our own minds, right? Is athletics? Doug's like saying it's athletics. Is athletics different than modeling and acting? I mean, it's
Yeah.
time consuming. It could take away the attention from friends and school and
Mhm.
all those sorts of things. It's making money in some instances, or the hope for money.
Yeah.
Again, I just think the parents and how they influence their children is of the utmost importance. Lori says people look at gymnastics sexually. People can fetishize anything. They're showing most
Interesting.
of their bodies.
This
That
is
is
the first time
interesting.
the first time I'm hearing that that gymnastics is somehow sexualized.
Well, I mean, I'm not surprised by that. I mean, think about the outfits that they wear. The outfits that women have to wear, not necessarily men, because of course
Yeah,
men
I thought
always get
I
to be
just
more
thought
covered.
it was I thought of it as like a swimsuit, like an athletic endeavor.
I mean, no, I'm not surprised by
Yeah.
it going to something like gymnastics or dance. I mean, when you talk about things like modeling, I mean, what are they wearing? What are they wearing? Very, very skimpy clothes.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it's and a lot of, I think there was not too long ago, there was a movement to change kind of the outfits that female gymnastics have to wear, gymnasts have to wear. Because
Mhm.
boys, again, they can wear the shorts, they can wear everything, but girls need to wear the very high thighs,
High
skimpy,
cut,
my ass is
yeah.
completely hanging out
Yeah.
type of leotard. But boys don't need to, because apparently it's not as important to see their
I
muscles.
must be hiding in a hole, Bertastic. I mean, I never looked at that and thought it was a sexual thing. No.
Yeah. But again, anything in certain hands, anything can be. The Sears catalog is sexualized to you too, Kim. Yeah, I mean, again, I literally just saw a meme about the Sears catalog the other day. They're like, a good Sears from the catalog could have done it for boys back in the day or anybody back in the day. You can make anything kind of that way, but it's up to parents when we're talking about young kids,
Yeah.
making sure that they're protected. And yeah, I mean, the Larry Nassar, the abuse that was going on, the justifications that parents make, the not listening to kids sometimes, you don't want to ruin your chance. This is a good coach or this is whatever. And you don't want to lose your shot. You put all this hard work in. That's the problem, whether it's acting, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's sports, all of those sorts of things. It can be dangerous. It can be a slippery slope. Absolutely.
It's interesting. Ron writes about women volleyball
Yeah.
players having to wear those outfits. It's funny because I asked Julia, why don't you try out for volleyball? And she said, I would never wear those booty shorts in front of the whole
Exactly.
school. There's no way I'm doing that. Okay.
And it's
Yeah.
not necessary. And again, it's
Yeah.
the people that make the rules justify it in so many ways. And it's like, you just want to see butts, right? I mean, let's not fool around here. Nice butts bring eyeballs to the TV screens. Let's not act like it helps volleyball players. Believe me,
Yeah.
I am positive a beach volleyball player would be a lot more comfortable with a lot more clothing
Mm-hmm.
than they're allowed to wear right now. So,
And I also think back to the original story about this 16-year-old girl.
oh God, yeah.
Her dad has isn't there should be, it seems to me in my mind, the way I was raised, that your parents are supposed to protect you.
Well, that's how it is supposed to be. Yes.
Not exploit you. And your
Not
dad in
exploit you.
particular should not be, wanting the daughter to sell pictures of the body.
Ew, that's
There's something wrong
gross.
there. Yeah,
No,
there's something going on.
He's a deviant. Like, I'm sorry. I don't care if it's $40,000. I don't care if it's $4, right? And I don't care if your 16-year-old daughter is like, but dad, it's no big deal. It's just pictures and I'm making all of this money. You say no. You take away her computer and her phone and you teach her better. Yeah, no, it's sick. It's completely wrong. And you just don't do that. You just don't do that. Okay, we have a couple more minutes, but I just wanted to show one thing. And I'm just going to end it on this note because you know that I'm a daredevil. But Kim McAllister.
Uh-oh, what did I do?
Would you ever try this? It's a new feature in New York at Rockefeller Center where you can recreate the iconic bean observation deck at Rockefeller Center. I guess you're kind of latched in. I guess there's a seatbelt. When it turns around, you could see it. And then they'll take a picture of you. When I first saw this, I was like, oh, I would never do that. That looks scary. 12 feet over a brick doesn't look that scary to me.
Huh.
So this is the picture that they're trying to recreate. So this was the iconic picture from back in the day. You know, everyone's seen that picture.
Yeah.
They were building the Rockefeller Center and all these guys went out there. And so you could sit out there and that's the picture that they'll take of you looking like you're doing it. But I'm like, everyone's like, oh, I was white knuckling it. I was so scared. You're not actually. It's not like in Vegas, you know, the roller coaster that kind of goes out. I don't remember what building it's on. I don't find it to be that scary. But if you're a daredevil, you could possibly go do that. That's real. That's not fake.
I'm
Exactly.
thinking, what if the seatbelt malfunctions or something happens
But
and
you're
all of a sudden
still
I'm plummeting?
over. Yeah, but you're still over like brick. I thought it went out over the street. Then I was like, okay, that could be kind of freaky deaky. But yeah, Jim's like, that's what Photoshop is for. You don't need to do it. But I mean, there's a difference between this and that.
Yeah.
Right? There is a huge. I want to see video of those guys going out there, right?
You know,
before they sat down.
What's so incredible about this photo is they seem so unaffected.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
look at them like leaning toward each other or lighting
just
cigarettes
eating,
or just
yeah.
hanging out, eating lunch, chit-chatting. Like it's no big deal.
And just to
right?
let you know, this was 800 feet above the ground. This
Yeah.
wasn't 12 feet above the observation deck, which is what these people are doing. These guys, yeah, they were really doing it. John's like, I hate that picture, huh? Okay. But yeah, it was a promotional photo. It was a promotional photo for when they were building the 30 Rock building during the construction of the 69th floor of the 30 Rock building. And that was back in 1932. So there you go.
Yeah,
if you
I
want
think
to recreate it, you can do it now.
I think I could do without the recreation picture. What about you?
Yeah, no. I mean, if I was apparently like thousands of people signed up to do the observation deck thing. It's $25 a person to do it. I mean, I guess it's a cute like touristy thing. But no, I'm not paying for all that. No, thank you. No, thank you. All right, that's our show. We will be back tomorrow. But before we end the show, please click the thumbs up button to show your support. Just click
subscribe.
It one right there and make sure you subscribe.
Yep.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. The super chat is live. Let's say some thank yous. Doug for a $5 super sticker.
Yay.
Dawn came in for $10. Harry came in with $5.
Thank you.
And Jim came in with $5.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you guys so much. You can also donate even during the replay as well. Just look for the $ under the chat box. And please become an official Medorable by signing up for our Patreon at thenikkimedoroshow.com. thenikkimedoroshow.com. All of the links are in today's show notes, as they are every single show. They're in the About section as well. So I just appreciate you all being there as well.
Insider information from Lee.
Okay. It was staged as a publicity stunt for a real estate development. It was reported that there was a half-completed floor below them, about 10 feet or so.
Oh.
That would make sense because they do
Yep.
look really casual.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, the article that I saw said they were 800 feet, but I was like, I would definitely be, they're just chit-chatting. I'd be holding on a little tighter than that. Absolutely. But yeah. All right. Thank you guys. Stay on YouTube. The Mark Thompson Show with Kim is next, and then the after party with Kim and John Daly. And I will see you here tomorrow. Bye. Mwah.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. Miss Brown, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.